Greetings and happy Wednesday from Austin, Texas. It is so good to see you. Thanks for coming around these parts today. I hope you are having an amazing start to the week. If you haven't already, say hi in the chat. Let us know what you're coming in from, such as me in Austin, or perhaps what is in your cup. I am Vanna Whiting, a lovely green tea today, and it is hot, which makes no sense because it's 100 here in Texas. So don't ask me why I made a hot tea. I should have thrown ice cubes in it. Clearly, I've lost my mind a little bit this week, but hopefully you have a better beverage choice with you today. So big hi to Anya and Michael and Jessica and Jen and Giacomo and Ashley and Kelly. Oh man, Grace is here. Alina's in the house. We got a full plate today. It is so good to see you guys. I promise, don't be shy. We're all here to help each other. We have got an amazing guest with us today at coffee. And I am going to say this in the beginning because I already know there's going to be so much wisdom that gets dropped here. You can go to sendmenotes.com and sign up for notes from our session. So put down the pen. That was a little pen drop, not to be confused with the mic drop, very different. That was a pen drop. So you don't have to worry about taking notes. Sit back, relax, enjoy the fun that is about to come, because holy moly, is the fun about to come. We have a very special guest with us. We have Shyvee. And what is so amazing, I have to tell you about Shyvee, is that if you look at her background, which again, hopefully you did your Google stalking before you got here, but if not, I got you. Shyvee essentially landed her dream job, maybe not dream job. Dream job is maybe like sipping margaritas on a private island, but close to a dream job at LinkedIn. And she did this transitioning from a totally different career path. And what I thought was really interesting about this is I feel like during the pandemic, what we have all experienced are these sort of aha moments of, oh my gosh, I work in finance, and you know what? I don't want to work in finance anymore. Or I work in HR, and you know what looks really interesting? Marketing, these big sort of career shifts. Or if you're an entrepreneur, hey, I was in this one area of business, but during the pandemic, I realized, holy moly, there's a whole other area of business. There's a whole new market that I could be going after. We're seeing like these big transitions. And so I wanted Shyvee to come on here and talk to us a little bit about how she managed to do that and the tips and tricks and tactics and sort of insider scoop that she can give us on how she managed to do that. So I hope Ellen and Michael and Salma and Rebecca can help me by raising their glasses wherever they are and welcoming Shyvee to coffee with us.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Kim, for the intro. Really glad to be here. I love your show. I work at LinkedIn Learning, so I saw a lot of your show happening every Wednesday. And I was like, whoa, I wonder if one day I'll be on the show. And that happened. And here I am. I have a glass of water. It's a little boring compared to your tea, but we're ready.
We'll take it. We'll take it. Well, I am not in a weird stocky way, but in like an admirable way, fascinated by your career path, Shyvee, because anyone, if you haven't already, will drop her LinkedIn link in the chat. And if you're listening to this later, you're just gonna have to do your own Google stalking. I can't help you with everything, but your career has zigged and zagged and gone in so many different directions. But I feel like the kind of through thread through all of it is it feels like you're constantly helping people, or that's what it seems to me on the outside. You're kind of really generous with your career tips and strategies that you've used. And has that always been the case, or did you kind of have this aha moment, like I have to help people behind me?
Yeah, I think it's always been the case that I always enjoy helping people. That's part of my life mission to be able to do that. So ever since even high school, I think I went to like local school to share, and then like college, throughout college, I try to mentor people as I'm moving, in my years. And then it's only since recently I've been doing that at scale because I just get so many requests from people that wanted to do one-on-one coffee chats with me, and that's no longer sustainable. So I decided I wanted to share them on LinkedIn and creating this community and this followings for people with my career tips. But it's always been a dream and something that I really enjoy doing, to spread the knowledge, share lessons that I wish I knew, and then some of the good ones and bad ones, the real lessons that you learn, and helping people accelerate their career. I also would say throughout the years, I think I benefited from a lot of, I've called them informal mentors that have helped me in various ways. So it's a great way for me to pay it forward, or pay it back and pay it forward as well.
I'm curious for you, making this big transition, from one career path to another. How did you even start to manage that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think, like you said in the intro, right? A lot of people, after you work in a specific field or function for a while, you might just be like, what's next? You're trying to figure out what's right. And you never really know, what you like to do. You might thought that like, for example, in my spare time, I love cooking, but I never would have envisioned in the near term that I would be like a professional chef in any sense, right? So then you would try to figure out what you like to do. And I do that by talking to people in careers where I thought I might be interested in. So I would talk to people like marketers or product managers or even designers, user researchers in various film, and ask like, tell me what a week in life would look like, show me your calendar, like talk me through the kind of meetings and
Mm.
people that you meet. I think from there, I get a rapid sense of like, okay, I'm not interested in this at all. Okay, I'm really interested in this. And then I would double down on talking to more people in that particular domain. I would also prioritize talking to people who had similar background like me before. So they were one or two steps ahead of me, right? In the direction that I wanted to explore. I think those people can really resonate with me, and I can resonate with them based on what they went through. And I consider those the real sort of mentors that can help me navigate, because they would have gone through similar set of questions that I might be asking myself right now as I'm navigating that transition. So I think that's generally the way how I sort of speed dial my discovery to like, okay, what is the least amount of effort without me quitting my job, taking a ton of risk, pivoting, to get a sense of like, will I like this? And usually you have multiple options, right? It's not just one career path. There are probably multiple ones that you're trying to navigate. So that's my general tip to how to get started.
So when you have this theory of like, okay, if I'm interested in marketing, or I'm interested in sales, or I'm interested in this new area for my business, got it. Shyvee's telling me to go talk to people. I'm gonna, Nancy Drew, like go do investigative work on what somebody's week looks like and who they're meeting with and all this good stuff. But what if someone says, oh no, I found an area that I think is interesting, but I don't know anybody in that field. Like I don't have anybody to call and say, show me your calendar, show me your schedule. What would you do in that situation?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. What I usually do, obviously, with LinkedIn, it helps because then you can see how many degree of separations you are from that person, right? That you wanted to talk to, or people like that person. So I generally, what I did is that I volunteer or participated in various organizations. So for example, even before so I'm an immigrant, right? I came from Hong Kong and to study here. So every time I go to a new place, I need to restart my network. So first it was in Hong Kong, and then Chicago, and right now in San Francisco Bay Area. So I think I always participate in local organizations or go to meetups before COVID. Right now there's a lot of online events where I try to just meet people that were interested. I might try to strike a good conversation, because whenever you go to those meetup, the first question I always got asked is like, quality or quantity, right? Like, do you get a lot of names but have shallow conversations, or only meeting one or two person, and then have a depth conversation? So my trick is I try to strike both. So I usually try to meet people talk about 10 to 15 minutes, get their contact, and then I will follow up after the meeting through emails. Not everybody respond, but just by being proactive and thoughtful, about reaching people, going to the communities where they are most likely to show up, whether it's a conference, a meetup about some interesting topics, or volunteer at local organizations. I think that helps me to connect with people in a social context and then gradually double down that connection by following up. Sometimes I also reach people co-reach, on LinkedIn. I know that a lot of people try to do that and then get frustrated because they didn't hear back. I think the trick there, I have 2 tips on there. One is I always consider approaching networking from the angle of strength, meaning like, for example, I volunteer to help out our local alumni organization. And whenever I said that and I introduced that to people, they think that I'm an interesting person. I'm helping out. I might know a lot of other people. So they might consider me being a broker or someone who had some value to add to the conversation. So I position networking from a sense of like, if you help me, I might be able to help you later, or someone in my network might be able to help you later, versus from a position of weakness, like, oh, I fail so many times, I'm not able to get interview, can you just talk to me, like bagging people. I think that might work sometimes if people have a sense of empathy, but when you look at today, everyone's so busy, if just purely relying on people's empathy to help you versus seeing that as a value adding win-win conversation, it might be really hard to get a coffee chat. So for me, it's a lot about position myself from a position of strength. Like people see it as like a potential conversation for a win-win situation between us, like a reciprocal, relationship. And then I think that increased the chance that people wanted to talk to you. I also think that follow-up is very important because sometimes, let's say you send a LinkedIn message, people might have seen it right away, but then they caught up in like a million other things at work. They might forgot to respond. And then a week passed, and they might just slip through their mind. So sometimes following up once or twice, or just offering options. If they don't want to talk to you like live because they're so busy, either ask for a later date or ask a lighter question like, oh, maybe you can just respond to me in the chat, like 1 or 2 questions that were pretty specific. I think those are the various ways to increase kind of connecting with people outside of your typical network and increase the chance of hearing back.
Well, and I always think what's helpful with that, at least for me, is most people don't want to take a risk with their time. If we think about time as a valuable thing, like time is money, that very common saying, people don't want to spend their money, spend their time on a stranger or somebody that they don't know. So another tip that I've used, which is similar to that, is when I'm messaging someone that might not want to spend their time or money on me, I will ask what I consider a very low lift question. So, hey, I really think that what you're doing in the sales department is super interesting. Do you have a sales book that you think I should read? Or do you have a newsletter that you think I should read? Or do you have a podcast that you think that I should listen to? And then here's where 99% of people fail. I actually go and do that. I actually go and I read the book, or I go and listen to the podcast, or I go and sign up for the newsletter and read it. And then what I do a couple days or maybe a week later is I follow back up, or maybe longer if you're actually going to read a whole book, and say, hey, I read that book. Here are my top 2 takeaways. Show people that when they spend time, and time is money, so when they spend with you, that is a worthy investment. You are actually going to do the tips or tricks or tactics or whatever it is that they're telling you to do, because I think that can help ladder up, that then you can ask for maybe a larger question or something to that effect. I'm curious with you, when you realized, okay, I want to go into product management. This is a field that I want. Let me talk to all the product managers. I still really like it, still love their schedule, love what they're doing. Was it at that point that you said, okay, I'm going to go find a product management role then at somewhere I want to be at LinkedIn? Or were you like, I will take a product management role anywhere, it doesn't matter where? Once you get to that step, what's your next step after that?
Yeah, it's definitely it was kind of a work in progress process, because when I joined, so when I joined LinkedIn, so I took 2 steps actually for me to fully transition into product management or the type of dream roles that you mentioned during the intro. So when I was working in consulting, the first step was, how do I get into tech company to be in a product management position, but that leveraged my former strengths that were transferable from a consulting setting into product management and tech, but not necessarily working on like a product that's my dream, because that would be way too competitive. Like a lot more product managers already had those experience, can get those roles. So it's a catch 22, right? You want to be a PM, but you didn't have PM experience. How do you get closer to it? So I actually did a two-step transition. So the first step was just get my foot in the door and opportunities to work in such capacity, such that when the times come, I will have more story to tell in the relevant round of experience. So for that transition, I talked to former consultants who left the job and joined like tech companies and have a similar trajectory. So I reach out to those people, have conversations, asking for their tips on how do I reposition my consulting experience in a tech setting that would resonate, with a hiring team. So I absolutely in favor of like reaching out to people who've been there, done that, like in that setting. And then once I joined LinkedIn, I wanted to actually work on a member facing external product, because the first step that I did was working for internal tools, that it gives me opportunities to work with engineers and designers, work in a tech company, so you understand sort of the product development life cycle, right? You understand how to write requirement document, how to do user interview, how does agile work, or like MVP, like this pilot experimental mindset. But then the next step is like, how do I work on a product that I'm really passionate about? So at that point, initially, I did only started with LinkedIn because I really love the company. But then as I talking to more people, and this time, especially the PM who have internally pivoted, from a different job function to product management, I learned sort of the ropes and like all the tricks along the way. And then I realized, okay, at the end of the day, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. I manage my career a lot like how you would manage your personal finance. Not to say that I a finance guru, but I did study finance in my undergrad. So I understand the principles of, how to manage your career, right? Like you would put a lot of eggs in different basket, meaning you would apply for different jobs, thinking one of them will work out. Then that's great. So that's what I did actually. I did talk to product managers outside of LinkedIn as well as within, to kind of maximize my chance of getting in. And then obviously when the decision times come, you actually have more options to decide from. I also think that exercise helped me to gain a lot more confidence when I was interviewing for LinkedIn, because then I don't feel like I'm so nervous. If I screw up this one, this is my only chance will be done, right? So I've increased like optionality for myself. So I definitely encourage people who wanted to make similar transition to explore both outside as well as within, but talk to people who made those transition to understand sort of what were their lessons learned, what were the things that they wish they knew, what were the things that they did successful. I think a lot with like career transition, if you find people who have a similar background as you, they're more likely to open to talk to you. And I agree with you. Do the homework. Like if they recommend you to read some article, do that, and then summarize that when you reach back out again and say, hey, I actually did the work. They will be impressed by it. I'm impressed by it. Like a lot of times people reach out to me, if I didn't have time to like meet up with them, but then they circle back and show their persistence and sincerity, I would prioritize the time to talk to them. So I do think that's a really good tip.
I think something else that's unique that you have done within your career is you bring an entrepreneurial element to the corporate landscape. Like you have gone in and done community building or starting associations or organizations within a corporate structure. And I think that that's really unique and something that really few people do. So how did you kind of come up with the strategies to go about doing this? If I'm sitting at a large corporation, let's pretend I work at Bank of America or something, and I say, I want to start an organization that's, I don't know, women in Texas within Bank of America or women at Bank of America or something like that. how would one even go about starting an internal community that is part of a larger structure?
Yeah, absolutely. I think now that you mention about it, yes, I do think that's one of my, I guess, strength or approach that I like to take to be part of an organization or a community. I think the first advice I will give is to find what communities already exist in that larger organization and umbrella that you can join and start leading as a volunteer or as like a co-chair of some organization, so that you start to learn what's working. They might already have email communication channels and other people that can help you out. I think one thing that people always forget is that those organizations are always looking for volunteers who actually mean it. What I mean by that, okay, I'll give you an example. When I joined the Kellogg Alumni Club, right now I'm the president, and everyone look at me like, wow, this is so impressive. But back then, when I first graduated, they were really just looking for people who are willing to edit the newsletter, right? Every other week, to put up with events, contact, meeting venues when we actually want to organize event. And those probably take about 1 to 2 hours a week, every 3 weeks or so. But it gives you so much more opportunities to eventually, expand and increase your perceived value. Again, I'm emphasizing on when you're networking, you should approach from a position of strength, right? Like if you are affiliated with some organization, or even you started your own ones, put in the effort, right? Like put in the effort to actually do the logistics. And once you kind of set your mind, you can be very efficient and productive about it. You don't always have to look for new venues every time. You can stick to one, and it's the matter of like you acting as an organizer, as a host. That means a lot, and you're willing to put in the effort. So many times, when I organize alumni event, and I have people come to me and say, "I really, really wanted to be more participating or leading alumni event." I said, "Great, send me an email and we'll connect." Guess what? Usually 40% of people would already drop off from that point, right? They didn't even bother to send me an email. Once they send me an email, I say, well, how about you organize a small group dinner? Here's, what we did last time. Just try to figure it out. 80% from there are never heard back. So guess what? The 20% that could persistently, willing to put up the effort organizing and doing that is when you will learn how to grow your network, and then also increase your perceived value, being a community builder, being someone who care about putting it out there. Then people want to talk to you because they knew that, one way or another, you are paying it forward, you are paying it back to helping your network, helping everyone to grow. So I think my advice is that just as you're thinking about, I want to grow my network, like, are you willing to put some effort? I'm not saying you spend 10 hours trying to network or co-outreach emails and all that, right? But being smart about it and deliver to your promise, right? If you want to help out an alumni event or some other event, help out. But time box it, right? Do it strategically, efficiently, and productively.
I'm curious, what would you say to someone who is listening or joining us today that says, I get it, Shyvee, I should be doing this community building, or I should be volunteering, or I should be networking outside of my career path or outside of my network right now. What would you say to someone who says, okay, I have 1 hour a week, versus someone who said, you know what, I have a little more time on my hands right now, I have 5 hours a week? Would the advice be different, or how would you differentiate if someone is kind of short on time versus someone has a little more time to dig in?
Yeah, for sure. I think someone who's like more short on time, they should just join existing event and like be a I think one of the LinkedIn influencer, Austin Becker, had like this advice of like, if you join an event and you send like, hey, I want to connect with everyone, here's a Google Sheet, can you guys sign up, to like, are you open to connect with each other? So if you're someone who are crunch on time, doing something like that, or connecting with people, let's say, who also joined Coffee with Kim today, if they're open to following up, why not? So like, then grab coffee chat there, or you just like make a habit of like every other week, talk to a stranger, talk to someone that you admire, and try to like reach out and build that habit. If someone who has a little bit more time, recently I'm more and more convinced that if you could start, sharing what you know, publicly, let's say on LinkedIn or other platform that people might be comfortable sharing, I think it's like a magnet that you're attracting people similar to you or with similar interests that would like to reach out to you. Or you can start something, right? Like if you are not online creation, publishing isn't your game, then try to start an organization. Maybe meet up locally every Friday at 4 p.m. to discuss trends in the tech industry or career lessons or something like that. Then you can do a little bit more. You can host a LinkedIn event even, right? So I think if you have more time, then be an organizer in some way that can build your brand that attracts other people. You're like a magnet, so you're not like always reaching out to find people. You can attract people, and then if you're a little bit more crunch on time, I think you can be strategic about who you reach out to or what kind of events you could participate in, such that you could connect with other people. You also have a reason to connect with people now, because then imagine like people watch us live now. You can joke about, hey, I really like what Kin said about this, or I really resonate with what Shyvee said about this, or I feel like there's more that I could be doing here. So then you naturally started a conversation with a shared context. So that helps to make people feel like they already have common ground with you to connect with you.
I love this idea. If you're short on time, go to an organization that already exists, give value, show up, be present, be really a team player in that way. And then if you have a little bit more time, go ahead and be the organizer or be that sort of internal advocate that's organizing and bringing people together. I think that's really solid advice. And I think honestly, digital makes it easier than ever. Joining lives like this every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, or connecting with people that are in a certain group or in a certain event. I mean, the fact that we can do this all from the comfort of our cozy homes and our pajama pants is pretty incredible. Although I have to agree with Jen here, I do miss live events with real people, IRL, as the kids say. I do miss that sort of element, but also that's coming back, God willing, it's coming back as we kind of close out 2022 in a big way. I'm curious for you, when it comes to somebody who maybe is intimidated about this idea, was there anything that you told yourself, or maybe a book you read or a mantra that you kind of said that, I don't know, kind of gave you the confidence? Because I think some people can sit here and say, yeah, I'll join an organization, or yeah, I can, organize something. And then it actually comes to the day and they're like, I'm so nervous. I can't do it. I don't want to show up. Like, how did you kind of get the bravery to sit in there and do that?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid question. I think it also hints on like, how do you network as an introvert, right? There's a spectrum of like the nervousness that comes up when talking to strangers. I think for me, one mental mindset narrative I try to reframe for myself. A lot of times I think I get people reaching out and say, well, I'm looking for a job. That's why I start reaching out to people. It feels very transactional, right? I'm using them because I'm trying to ask them to get me a referral or tell me, if I should apply for this job and that. I think obviously that mindset will add a lot of nervousness, like, to you as you think about, I'm using this person. Whereas the way I like to approach it is reframe that. Like, how can I be value adding to this person? I'm here to learn about knowledge, to think of new ways to share it or pay it back in the future. What is the larger force that I can elevate that purpose? Whether you're organizing something, let's say women in product, trying to promote more diversity in leadership. So then I would think about the bigger mission of the organization that I'm supporting and why I'm doing what I'm doing, to try to feel like, okay, it's not about I'm using this person, but it's more about I'm seeking knowledge and hopefully one day I can pay it back. I also don't outrightly ask people for referral unless I feel like there was connection. And then if the conversation goes well, I'm sure like a reasonable person would just offer, that they could refer you or not. So I focus on what I can learn from this person, being genuinely interested, as well as how else can I be value add? I think one example, one of my follower reached out to me. She's from India, and then she had this idea of talking to me about creator journey or how to get started around posting on LinkedIn. It took us a couple rounds to schedule the meeting, and then when we finally met, she actually gave me a small gift. She helped me design my profile banner on LinkedIn, just as a small token of appreciation. So something as creative like that, could help, even though she felt like on paper, I might be more experienced in a lot of the areas so she wouldn't give me advice or anything, but she showed that she cared enough, that she wanted to thank me for my time. So I encourage everybody to kind of reframe the narrative, the limiting narrative that you're telling yourself. I'm using this person to, like, what if I need to become friends with this person? What do I need to know about, him or her? How is he or her's day to day like? What does he cares? What does she do or struggle with or proud about, at work? And just like genuinely get to know the person. I think that's what I usually do, even in large settings. Sometimes if I feel too overwhelmed, I do start small, focus on the one or two conversation that I can have with people, um, and then just start from there, and take small steps. Sometimes, if you're not comfortable with a large crowd, I also just suggest you to reach out to people individually, but reach out with a very thoughtful message of like, "Hey, Kim, I really admire how you started Coffee with Kim program. I wanted to explore something similar, but I want to talk to you to learn about your experience, how you get started, how I can help out in some way, offer to help and learn from the person." So I think that way you can then really just need to focus on one person at a time without having to feel very nervous about, oh, I need to organize this thing. I don't know how to get like 10 people to show up. Start small, but start now.
Start small. And everyone has something to add. Everyone has a piece of value to bring to the table. If someone is going to transition roles, but they are younger in their career, so they are kind of just starting out and they realize, oops, made a mistake, thought I wanted to get into sales, I actually want to get into marketing, versus someone who maybe is later in their career and have realized, wow, after 20 years of doing marketing, this is great and all, but now I really want to move into product management. What would be your advice for somebody who's early in their career and wants to switch versus somebody who wants to switch and is later in their career?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think easier for someone who's early in their career, of course, right? Because they have more energy. And then, so I would say for the earlier crew, just try it out, like start, try to get in a junior position and then move up there, like prove yourself being a fast learner, try to be versatile, doing a bunch of stuff, be jack of all trades, even if that means like, joining a startup and then getting into that field. Like, it's important, I think, to get into the field that you want to work in to validate whether that's the right path for you, and then really just be like a sponge and learn a bunch and like grow from there. I think that's the advice I will give to the younger crew. For people who are like mid-career or late career, I think first you need to understand what is the trade-off of the pivot, and are you willing to make peace with the trade-off? So that means pretty hard self-reflection on, let's say if you want to pivot to some field, you might go from a people manager position down back to like individual contributor. Some company might result in pay cut or not. So you have to like figure out, what am I dealing with in the trade-off set, right? What are some of the choices that you're willing to put off? The second thing is, be very clear about your why. Like, why do you want to transition into a particular field? And you should really ask yourself, what do I like about my current field? What do I don't like about my current field? Don't run away from it just because you feel like you start not liking it. Be really clear what you're looking for in your next job. And then actually also be open-minded. I see a lot of people coming to me said that they have been, let's say, in healthcare operation for 20 years or 15 years. They want to go into product. I always ask them why. Like, is it just because product is a very hot, sexy, popular job from like Silicon Valley that everyone wants? Or is it something more unique to you? Like maybe there's certain aspect of the job you really like, and be open to it, because there might be similar job, like a product strategy, but maybe could be at a higher level, right? Similar to your role, or a smaller company where you can be an operator. So jack of all trade, that will be a better leverage of your skill set. So I would encourage the mid to late career folks, be very clear on their trade-off, be very clear on their why, be open-minded to adjacent, roles that might be in the round of what you like, and start exploring there. Um, yeah, I consider myself sort of an early to mid career like pivoter. So I went from managing a small team back down to like doing individual contributor role again. But I feel like it was important for me because I learned so much more new skill set, that could really help me accelerate my career in the near to mid future. So that was a really worthwhile trade-off for me. But for someone, if they have like 20 years of experience managing a team in a specific field, then the trade off is a lot higher. And you should ask yourself. I also think that one other question that was really helpful when I was thinking through is like, don't just look at your immediate next job, look at the job after the next job. That helps you, think about all the options and choices that you could make by taking your immediate next job. So I usually think about, what do I want to do after being a PM at LinkedIn? What other jobs would open me opportunities for what I want to do eventually? So the job after the next job, I think is something that both younger and older crew could think about and help them.
Absolutely. I have my caffeine ready because I feel like these next couple questions, you are going to drill us with some hardcore resources, which I am really excited about. So I hope everybody takes a big sip of whatever it is they have in front of us and gets ready, because I feel like we're about to get knowledge dropped on us. And I will remind everybody, you can go to sendmenotes.com and these notes will be sent to you. So don't worry about trying to write them too fast. But is there something that you have started using or doing lately that you really love? It could be something that helps you be better at your job, or it could just be in life, but something that you, if we're having cozy coffee at a shop, you're like, oh my gosh, Kim, before we leave, you have to either order or do or sign up for this.
That's a good idea. I have a couple answers actually. But I would say personally, I recently bought, or my friend bought, an inflatable kayak, which I think was really fun. If you live close to a lake, and just using that time to recharge and get closer to nature, I think helps you to recharge and be productive again. Something at work that I do, I find it really helpful, is start your meeting and then start taking notes right away on a Google Sheet. So in a remote setting, I think it really helped anchor people on like, these are the set of things that we talk about. This is what success looks like for a meeting, put it up front so that every conversation, if it gets like digress, you can bring them back. But also your meeting notes is right there. And with actions, and you call people out. There's no like, let's talk about philosophical stuff for half an hour and the meeting feels like very just all over the place. So putting the screen up and taking notes as we go, I think is a very helpful tip.
That's a huge one, and one that I definitely do all the time for that exact reason. Because if not, I cannot rely on my own brain, because I'll be like, no worries, I'll remember that. No, I won't. No, I won't.
No,
15 minutes afterwards, my phone will ring, it will buzz, and I will forget whatever it was I thought I was going to do. So could not agree more with writing everything down. I know that you have a resource on your LinkedIn profile, which anyone who hasn't seen it, if you go to Shyvee's about section, she has a link there it links to a Google Drive doc that has like a ton of links, two of which I thought were really interesting. You list the top 10 product leaders that you think that people should follow on LinkedIn, as well as the top 15 rising stars of product influencers to follow on LinkedIn. So this is going to be kind of a hard one, but in terms of like holistic life, and it doesn't have to be on LinkedIn, it could be on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. Are there people or brands, it could be a brand too, that you follow that you just feel like, wow, every time I see their content, it makes me smile or it makes me
Mm.
happy or I learn something? I feel like lately sometimes our feeds are filled with, I don't know, like negativity or sadness or comparing, or I have this and you don't, or I got this internship and you didn't. So, what would you say are some good, again, either humans or brands that you just feel like, man, like when I see their stuff, it lights me up.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I follow a lot of different brands. That's why I like you mentioned the top 10 plus 15 that I follow. So I definitely take in a lot of input from various different sources. But regarding specifically to the one, how can I get more positive vibe? How can I be more stay grounded despite everything that's happening around us, things that are constantly change? How can I get my positive dose, of like optimism? I did like this creator. She's on both LinkedIn and Instagram, Liz Folslam. She creates
Yeah.
simple diagrams, but tells you about very simple but very profound life and career advice. So I remember the first time I saw her Instagram post, I took screenshots of like 40 of her illustration, just try to remind myself, okay, when I feel like jealousy about someone else have so much success, I would like think about, okay, this diagram, how do I think about measuring success, the two different pies that we have definition for success in life. So I kept her a lot of her illustrations, and I actually had the honor to interview her like last month on one of our programming for LinkedIn Learning. So highly encourage people to check out her stuff on
I
LinkedIn.
agree. I love her stuff. I think it's freaking awesome. She really just hits home in such a unique, poignant way. We love homework around these parts, which is a controversial subject because I know most people try to avoid homework, but not us. We like homework. So if you had to give me and everybody who's listening and joining us today, if you had to give us a homework assignment, could be to do something or read something or download something this week, what homework assignment would you give us?
Yes, I have a very timely one. It's a shameless plug, but if you enjoy my content, like networking, I have content on how to be more productive. A new course that I published on LinkedIn last Monday, and I'm doing a creative giveaway. So whoever watched my course, it's pretty short at about 37 minutes. Feel free to 2x your speed as you watch it if you're crunch on time. But if you write me like one takeaway on what you learned from my course, you might get a chance to get a free LinkedIn premium or a coaching session one-on-one with me. So check it out from my LinkedIn profile. I link it out there, but I would love to hear from
Okay,
you.
where can people find it? They pull up your LinkedIn profile and it's on the link right there, right?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
like on my feature section, and they will see the course. And yeah,
So they click that, they watch it, and then they message you saying
yeah,
one
they can
tip or
tag
one
me.
takeaway.
Yes, yes.
All right. We got homework, my friends. We got a good homework assignment. Where's the best place for people to keep learning from you, keep getting your wisdom besides this LinkedIn course? Is there anywhere else that you spend your time on the social media internets?
Yes, absolutely. I think two ways. One, again, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I share daily advice through short form post. So if you subscribe, like follow me, you'll see daily advice. I also hosting this PM learning series where I interview product leaders. The first one is coming up next Friday with Gianda, our VP of product at LinkedIn, and a lot of product leaders. So subscribe to my newsletter to receive updates about those events, PM Learning Series, and my daily posts on LinkedIn.
You are constantly hitting us with more and more value. So thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. I'm so happy that we were able to have this kind of cozy coffee chat and steal some of your homework, steal some of your secrets. Everybody, we meet here every single Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So I would absolutely love and be honored to see you back here next week. In the meantime, if you thought that these resources were helpful for you, go to sendmenotes.com, sign up for the notes. You will get them to your inbox. We will also give you the link for everything that Shyvee talked about, including her new course with a chance to win some coaching sessions with her, which is pretty dang awesome. So thank you so much for joining us, Shyvee, and I hope everybody has an amazing rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having me. Bye.